my daughter, who's now, gosh, I'd say at 15, invited me when she was in kindergarten to go to her career day. And so I showed up and I said, Bailey, what are you going to tell them I do? I mean, I'm an executive director of a council of governments. I can't get adults to understand that, much less kindergartners. And she said, Dad, don't worry, I've got it. And so she stood up and she said, hi, this is my dad and he talks. So apparently that's what I do.
Yeah, my 13-year-old would say pretty much the same sort of thing.
Well, the question I have for you today is, how do you think that local taxpayers can be better prepared for a disaster other than just going on the internet or like other sources of information? How can we be better prepared if something does happen in our city or our state?
I think one of the things you can do just as an average citizen, consumer, is think about those things that you use every day that you could not live without. Is it your contact case? Is it your prescriptions, your glasses? Is it feasible to replace them quickly? Are you going to be able to afford to replace them? The standard is to be prepared to be on your own for 72 hours, 3 days. So what would you need? What would you have to have? And of those things, what could you stash in a bag in the back of your car, and grab quickly?
The thing that amazed me about Katrina and Rita was, if I'm going to go to the drive-in movie up in Gatesville with my family, I have no problem saying, okay, I need some blankets because it's going to be cold, and I need something to drink, and okay, we're going to need something to eat, and my glasses, and some money. Yet people in a disaster tend to kind of panic, and they rush out of situations, and they get to the shelter, and they have no wallet, they have no driver's license, I don't have my glasses, I don't have my contacts. So I would just say take a moment, as was just said, collect yourself and think about, okay, I'm going to be on my own for the next 3 days. How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to take care of my medicines? How am I going to take care of my family and my pets?
And just remember that most disasters, sort of by definition, it's a disaster. So you don't get a whole lot of prep time. I mean, one of the few that you get a lot of advance warning is a hurricane. That's unlikely to be a huge issue here in Central Texas. The first summer that I moved here, I moved here from Southeast Texas, and it got to be June 1st, and I said to this friend of mine, I was like, okay, it's June 1st. I got to go buy 5 gallons of water, and I need to be sure I have cash so I can buy gas at a moment. So I was making this list, and he's like, why? I said, because it's June 1st. It's the first day of hurricane season. He's like, we're 500 miles inland. Probably not a big issue, but translating that and taking that to in terms of other disasters, do you just take a minute to take a deep breath and collect yourself and think, because by the very nature of a crisis or a disaster, you panic. And so putting some thought into it in advance is worth whatever sort of short-term anxiety you have for, I don't want to think about this, is worth it for being more ready when something really does happen.
Something you said kind of, keys me, I call myself a planner by trade, but it's amazing how little we plan as Americans. After the Gerald hurricane several years ago, there was a family that told a story in the press that they made a plan. They were so scared of seeing, not being able to get in touch with each other, and we're so used to cell phones and, instant messaging and text messaging so we can get in touch, that they made a place that they were going to meet as a family should there ever be a storm. And so that was their family's plan, much like if you had a fire in your house, where would we all meet? Well, if there's a disaster, where are we all going to meet? And so there are some things that families can do together to decide how are we going to be better prepared should something happen to our house or to our community.
Okay. Well, another question I have is, since different disasters happen in different states and other things, like they're prone to hurricanes or fires or anything like that, are different states given a larger budget in case something like that does happen versus like Texas a budget like for hurricanes or something to that nature? Do we have more money?
I do know that within the state's disaster preparedness budget, an allocation comes down to the federal government, and it's called an investment analysis. And I'll probably get the terms not exactly correct because I don't do it on a daily basis. But we are required to do a threat analysis as a region. You know, what is the biggest threat in our region? How would our region be most impacted by a disaster? And then that fills into the state's investment analysis that they send to the federal government, and that plays a role in the formula for allocation of Homeland Security dollars back to the state. And actually, we just went through that process, and they're called investment justifications, IJs, and we just did those. I believe they were finalized in March, but I'm not certain.
This past spring.
Okay. And another question I have is, as far as like the volunteers that come, like y'all mentioned Walmart bringing the water, do they get paid? Are they in the budget, or is this like just volunteer as far as they're just doing it just to do it to help out? Or
well, if you're talking about the major national volunteer-based organizations like Red Cross or Salvation Army or some of those kinds of groups, those people that come are truly volunteers in every sense of the word. I mean, they are probably actually taking time off from a paying job to come and help. So the training that they undergo, oftentimes their expenses for getting there, those are all, you know, something that they just do out of the goodness of their heart to be ready. Now, those major organizations largely rely on charitable contributions, either from individuals or other large organizations, but they are volunteer-driven services.
I'll give you an example. Several years ago, there was a large fire in Temple, Texas, and they had to use all of their water pressure to continue to fight the fire. And Temple Bottling Company, who makes Coca-Cola, they bottle Coca-Cola products, shut down their line voluntarily and bottled water in Coke bottles. It was interesting because you would get these clear bottles that would look like a Coke bottle, but they were filled with water. And Temple Bottling voluntarily did that so that residents would drink that water as opposed to using that production capability and have people drawing water out of the system and reducing the pressure they were using to fight the fire. And to my knowledge, they didn't ask for reimbursement for that. And so, you know, I think that there are opportunities that corporate America will step up. Now, I'm not so naive as to think that everything's for free, but in that case, they stepped up and helped the community in Central Texas.
Okay, and the last question is, are you ready for Man, Bear, Pig?
Man, bear, pig. Man, bear, pig.
Half man, half bear, half pig.
Half bear, half pig. Well, that's one-third, one-third, one-third.
One-third. I guess it depends on what third you're being faced with. But, I'd have to say personally, no, I don't think I am ready for Man, Bear, Pig.
You know, I spent 20 years running crisis-related organizations dealing with mostly around issues of domestic violence and sexual assault, and I'm pretty certain that I've never encountered this question before. So no, but I don't think so.
All right.